I live nearby. I'll be fine. The lie left Ethan's lips as easily as his breath turned to frost in the air. Emily Graves stood there, shivering, wrapped in his coat, the only coat he owned, her mascara-streaked face looking up at him with something he'd never seen before. Gratitude. He turned and walked into the blizzard wearing nothing but a thin long-sleeve shirt, disappearing into the white hell like he'd never existed at all. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now. This story gets darker, more intense, and trust me, you won't believe where it goes. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Ethan's story travels. Now let's go back to the beginning because what you just heard, that's not even the worst part. 3 months earlier, Ethan Carter woke up to the sound of rats scratching inside the walls. He didn't move at first, just lay there on the mattress he dragged from a dumpster behind the Salvation Army, staring at the rust-stained ceiling of the abandoned Hartley Auto Shop. His breath came out in clouds. October in Millbrook, Pennsylvania meant mornings that bit through whatever layers you had, and Ethan had exactly 2 hoodies, 1 pair of jeans with a blown-out knee, and sneakers held together with duct tape. He checked his phone. 5:47 a.m. The screen was cracked in 3 places, held together with a screen protector he'd stolen from a gas station. No messages, no missed calls. There never were. Ethan sat up, grabbed the gallon jug of water he kept by the mattress, and took 3 long swallows. Cold as ice. He'd filled it at the public bathroom in Riverside Park yesterday. Had to be careful if he filled it too often at the same place someone might notice. Someone might ask questions. Rule number 1, don't get noticed. He pulled on his jeans, both hoodies and the coat. The coat was dark green canvas lined with flannel with a ripped pocket on the left side. His mother had given it to him 4 years ago, back when she was still alive. Back when they'd had an apartment. Back when dinner meant more than stealing protein bars from the 7-Eleven. Ethan zipped it up to his chin and headed for the door. The auto shop had been closed for 6 years. Bankruptcy, according to the faded notice still taped to the front window. Most of the tools were gone, but the building was structurally sound, and more importantly, it was invisible. Tucked between a closed-down Dollar General and a self-storage facility, nobody ever came down this street. Nobody except Ethan. He slipped out through the side door, made sure it locked behind him, and started walking. Millbrook High was 2 miles away. Ethan walked it every morning no matter the weather. He'd tried taking the bus once, but that meant being trapped in a metal box with Troy Mason and his crew. And that was a mistake he wouldn't make twice. The streets were empty. A few cars passed headlights, cutting through the pre-dawn dark, but nobody looked at him. That was fine. Ethan preferred it that way. He reached the school at 6:38 a.m., 22 minutes before the doors officially opened. But Mr. Carver, the janitor, always unlocked the gym entrance early, and Ethan had learned to slip in unnoticed. The locker room was warm. The showers worked. Ethan locked himself in the last stall, peeled off his clothes, and stood under the hottest water the ancient pipes could manage. It burned. He didn't care. For 5 minutes, he wasn't cold. For 5 minutes, he could close his eyes and pretend he was normal. He scrubbed himself with a sliver of soap he'd pocketed from the bathroom at Burger King, washed his hair with the same, then stood there until the water started running cold again. Then he dried off with paper towels, got dressed, and walked out like nothing had happened. The hallways were starting to fill up by the time he got to his locker. Ethan kept his head down, worked the combination, and grabbed his biology textbook. He didn't have a backpack, couldn't afford one, so he just carried whatever books he needed for the day. Yo, check it out. Ghost Boy's here. Ethan's stomach clenched. He didn't turn around. I'm talking to you, Carter. Troy Mason's voice was like gravel scraping glass. Ethan closed his locker slowly, carefully, and turned. Troy was flanked by his usual group, Kyle Brennan, Mike Sato, and Derek Voss. All of them wore Millbrook football hoodies. All of them looked at Ethan like he was something stuck to the bottom of their shoes. Didn't hear me? Troy stepped closer. He was 6'2", 200 pounds of muscle and entitlement. I said hi. Hi, Ethan said quietly. Troy grinned. Where'd you get that coat, man? Salvation Army? Kyle laughed. Nah, bro, dumpster. Both, Ethan said. The smile dropped off Troy's face. You talking back? No. You sure? 'Cause it sounded like you were. Ethan said nothing. Rule number 2. Don't engage. Troy leaned in his breath, smelling like energy drinks and chewing tobacco. You know what I think? I think you're a waste of space, Carter. I think you don't belong here. I think, Troy. Everyone turned. Emily Graves stood 10 feet away. Her arms crossed, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a Millbrook Yee cheer jacket and designer jeans, and her expression was somewhere between annoyed and exhausted. What? Troy said. Leave him alone. Troy's jaw tightened. Why do you care? I don't, Emily said flatly. I just don't want to watch you act like a Neanderthal before first period. Kyle snorted. Troy shot him a look that could have melted steel, then turned back to Emily. We're just talking. No, you're being a jackass. There's a difference. For a second, Ethan thought Troy might actually hit her. The air went tight. Troy's fists clenched. Then he smiled, slow, mean, calculated. Sure, babe. Whatever you say. He turned and walked off, his crew trailing behind him. Emily didn't look at Ethan, just walked past him like he didn't exist. Ethan exhaled and headed to class. Biology was a blur. Ethan sat in the back, took notes he didn't need, and watched the clock. At 10:15, the bell rang, and he headed to the library. He had a free period, and the library was warm, quiet, and most importantly, had free Wi-Fi. He sat in the corner by the encyclopedias, nobody ever went there, and pulled out his phone. He had 3 unread emails, all from job sites. 2 rejections, 1 asking for an in-person interview at a car wash 15 miles away. Ethan stared at it. 15 miles, no car, no bus fare. He'd have to walk, and that meant leaving at 4 a.m. to make it on time. He clicked confirm interview and closed his phone. Carter, Ethan's head snapped up. Mrs. Brennan, the school counselor, stood there holding a clipboard. She was in her 50s, gray hair, kind eyes, the type of person who genuinely wanted to help but had no idea how. Can I talk to you for a second? She asked. Ethan's pulse spiked. About what? Just to check in. Come on. She led him to her office, a cramped room filled with motivational posters and fake plants. Ethan sat in the chair across from her desk, his hands folded in his lap. How are you doing? Mrs. Brennan asked. Fine. Yeah, you've missed a few days this month. I was sick. Both times, Ethan nodded. Mrs. Brennan studied him. Where are you staying, Ethan? His heart stopped. What? We haven't been able to reach your emergency contact. The number on file is disconnected. It's my aunt, Ethan lied. She moved. I'll get you the new number. Does she live in Millbrook? Yeah. What's the address? Ethan rattled off a random street name he'd seen on a sign 2 days ago. Mrs. Brennan wrote it down. And you're living with her? Yes. Okay. She set the clipboard down. Look, Ethan, if you're in trouble, we can help. There are resources. I'm fine, Ethan said firmly. Really? Mrs. Brennan didn't look convinced, but she nodded. All right, but if anything changes, you come talk to me. Okay. Okay, she let him go. Ethan walked out of the office, his hands shaking, and went straight to the bathroom. He locked himself in a stall and sat on the toilet lid, his head in his hands. Close. Too close. If they figured it out, if they knew he was homeless, they'd call CPS. They'd put him in a group home, or worse, try to track down his dad. And his dad was the last person on earth Ethan wanted to see. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and went to his next class. Lunch was the worst part of the day. Ethan didn't have money for the cafeteria, so he usually skipped it. But today his stomach was cramping so bad he couldn't ignore it. He waited until the line died down, then approached the register. $2.50, the lunch lady said, without looking up. Ethan pulled out a crumpled dollar bill and 73 cents in change. Can I just get a side of fries? She glanced at the money, then at him. For a second, he thought she'd say no. Then she sighed, handed him a tray with a burger, fries, and a carton of milk. Go on, she said quietly. Ethan stared. I said go on. He took the tray, his throat tight, and found a seat in the corner. He ate slowly, savoring every bite, knowing it might be the only real meal he'd get today. Halfway through, someone slammed their tray down across from him. Ethan looked up. Emily Graves sat there unwrapping a salad. Can I sit here? She asked. Ethan blinked. It's a free country. Cool. She started eating. Ethan waited for the punchline, the joke, the prank, the reason someone like Emily Graves would sit with someone like him. But she just ate her salad and scrolled through her phone. Finally, Ethan asked, Why'd you do that this morning? Do what? Tell Troy to back off. Emily shrugged. He's an asshole. You're dating him. Not anymore. Ethan frowned. Since when? Since about an hour ago. She stabbed a cherry tomato with more force than necessary. He cheated on me with Madison Keller at his own party while I was there. That's messed up. Yeah. She looked at him directly for the first time. You're Ethan, right? Yeah. I'm Emily. I know. She smiled a little. Everyone knows everyone in this hellhole. Ethan didn't argue. They finished eating in silence. Bam. The rest of the day passed uneventfully. Ethan went to class, kept his head down, and left the building the second the final bell rang. He had a shift at Marty's Gas and Go from 4 to 9, which meant he had just enough time to walk there. Marty's was a dump. Flickering lights, cracked tile floors, a bathroom that smelled like something had died in the walls. But Marty paid cash under the table, asked no questions, and let Ethan take home expired food from the shelves. Carter! Marty barked from behind the counter. He was 60 bald with a gut that hung over his belt. Register 3, some kid just puked in the bathroom, clean it up first. Ethan grabbed the mop and bucket without complaint. The shift dragged. A few customers came in, mostly truckers, grabbing coffee and cigarettes, but it was slow. At 8:47, the door chimed, and Ethan looked up. Troy Mason walked in, flanked by Kyle and Derek. Ethan's stomach dropped. Troy saw him immediately, grinned, walked straight to the counter. Well, Troy said. Ghost Boy works here. That's hilarious. Ethan said nothing. Rang up a trucker, buying beef jerky. You ignoring me? Troy leaned on the counter. That's rude, man. The trucker grabbed his bag and left. The store was empty except for the 4 of them. What do you want? Ethan asked quietly. Just wanted to see where you disappeared to every night. Troy picked up a candy bar, unwrapped it, and took a bite. This place is pathetic. Like you. Kyle laughed. Derek grabbed a Gatorade and chugged it without paying. You gonna ring us up, Carter? Troy asked, his mouth full. You gonna pay? Troy's smile vanished. He grabbed Ethan by the front of his hoodie and yanked him halfway across the counter. What did you just say, Troy? Say it again. I dare you. Ethan's heart hammered, but he kept his voice steady. Let go. For a long, terrible moment, Troy just stared at him. Then he shoved Ethan back and tossed $1 on the counter. Keep the change, Ghost Boy. They left laughing. Ethan stood there shaking until Marty came out of the back room. You okay? Yeah. Marty looked at the dollar, then at Ethan. You want me to ban them? No, it's fine. It wasn't fine, but banning them would only make things worse. Dog. At 9:03, Ethan clocked out, grabbed 2 expired sandwiches and a bag of chips from the back, and started the walk home. The temperature had dropped. The wind cut through his coat like it wasn't even there. By the time he reached the auto shop, his fingers were numb. He unlocked the door, slipped inside, and locked it behind him. Then he sat on his mattress, ate 1 sandwich, and saved the other for tomorrow. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Emily. Got your number from the school directory. You okay? Ethan stared at it, typed back, yeah, why? 3 dots appeared. Then Troy's an asshole. Just wanted to make sure he didn't do anything. Ethan hesitated, then replied, I'm fine, thanks. Okay, night. Night. He set the phone down, lay back on the mattress, and pulled his coat over himself like a blanket. Tomorrow he'd wake up at 5:47. He'd walk to school. He'd survive. That was the only rule that mattered. Survive. The next morning started the same way every morning, started cold, dark, and alone. Ethan woke at 5:47, pulled on his clothes, and walked to school through streets that didn't care whether he lived or died. But something was different today. Emily Graves was waiting by his locker. She stood there in her cheer jacket, arms crossed against the cold, her breath forming small clouds in the hallway. When she saw him, she pushed off the wall and walked over. Hey, she said. Ethan stopped. Hey, can I ask you something? His guard went up immediately. Depends. Where do you actually live? The question hit him like a fist to the gut. He kept his face neutral. White bum, because I drove past the address you gave Mrs. Brennan yesterday. It's an empty lot. Ethan's pulse spiked. You followed me. No, I just look. I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I just want to know if you're okay. I'm fine. Ethan, I'm fine. He repeated harder this time. He opened his locker, grabbed his books, and started to walk away. Emily grabbed his arm. Wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. I'm not going to tell anyone, she said quietly. I promise. I know what it's like when things are bad at home. My mom left when I was 8. My dad, he's not always around. So if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Ethan finally looked at her. Her eyes were genuine. No pity, no judgment, just understanding. Thanks, he said, but I'm handling it. She let go of his arm. Okay, but the offer stands. She walked away before he could respond. Ethan stood there, his books pressed against his chest, wondering if he'd just made a mistake or dodged a bullet. The day crawled forward. In third period, English Mrs. Alvarez handed back essays. Ethan got a 92, Troy got a 68, and crumpled his paper into a ball. This is bullshit, Troy muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. She doesn't like me. Or you're just stupid, someone whispered. Troy's head snapped around. Who said that? No one answered. Mrs. Alvarez cleared her throat. Troy, do you have something to share? No, ma'am. Then please save your commentary for after class. Troy's jaw clenched, but he shut up. For now. At lunch, Emily sat with Ethan again. This time, she brought an extra sandwich. I'm not hungry, she said, sliding it across the table. You want it? Ethan stared at the sandwich. Turkey and cheese on wheat. His stomach growled. I'm not a charity case, he said. I didn't say you were. I said I'm not hungry. She opened her laptop and started typing. Take it or don't. I'm throwing it away either way. Ethan took it, ate it slowly, savored every bite. Thank you, he said quietly. Emily didn't look up from her screen. Don't mention it. They sat in silence for a while. Then Emily said, Troy's throwing a party Friday night. So he's been texting me nonstop, begging me to come. Says he's sorry. Says he'll change. She laughed bitterly. He won't. Then don't go. I have to. If I don't, he'll make my life hell. He'll tell everyone I'm a bitch. She stopped, took a breath. It's easier to just show up, stay an hour and leave. Ethan understood that logic. Survival meant picking your battles. You could bring someone, he said. A buffer. Emily looked at him. You offering? What? No, I just meant, relax, I'm kidding. She smiled a little. Besides, you wouldn't last 5 minutes at one of Troy's parties. Probably not. But the idea hung there between them unspoken. That afternoon, Ethan got called to the principal's office. Principal Dawson was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with a military buzz cut and a permanent scowl. He sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, staring at Ethan like he was a problem that needed solving. Sit, Dawson said. Ethan sat. We've had some concerns raised about your attendance, your living situation, your general well-being. Ethan's stomach turned to ice. Who raised concerns? That's not important. What's important is that we make sure our students are safe and supported. So I'm going to ask you directly, is everything okay at home? Ethan met his eyes. Yes, sir. You're living with your aunt, correct? Yes, sir. And she's aware you've missed several days of school this month. She knows I was sick. Dawson leaned back in his chair. You know, Carter, I've been doing this job for 23 years. I can tell when a kid's lying to me. Ethan said nothing. But I also know that sometimes kids have their reasons. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me your aunt's phone number. I'm going to call her, and if everything checks out, we'll drop this. Sound fair? Ethan's mind raced. He didn't have an aunt. He didn't have anyone. She's at work right now, Ethan said. She works nights, sleeps during the day. If you call, you'll wake her up and she'll be pissed. Dawson raised an eyebrow. What does she do? She's a nurse, night shift at Mercy General. It was a lie, a complete fabrication, but Dawson seemed to buy it. Fine, Dawson said. Give me the number. I'll call tonight. Ethan rattled off a fake number, a random string of digits he made up on the spot. Dawson wrote it down. You're dismissed, Dawson said. Ethan stood and walked out, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. He had maybe 12 hours before Dawson called that number and realized it was fake. 12 hours before everything fell apart. He needed a plan. At 4 p.m., Ethan clocked in at Marty's. The shift was brutal. The register kept jamming, the coffee machine broke, and some drunk guy tried to steal a case of beer and got belligerent when Ethan stopped him. You think you're tough, kid? The guy slurred, leaning over the counter. I'll kick your ass. Sir, I'm just doing my job. Your job? Your job is to shut the hell up and let me take what I want. Marty emerged from the back room with a baseball bat. Get out, now. The guy left cursing and stumbling. Marty set the bat down and looked at Ethan. You okay? Yeah. You handled that well. Ethan shrugged. He'd dealt with worse. At 9 p.m., he clocked out and started walking home. The temperature had dropped even further. Snow was starting to fall, light, lazy flakes that melted the second they hit the ground. Halfway to the auto shop, his phone buzzed. A text from Emily. You free tomorrow after school? Ethan stared at it. Typed back, why? Need help with something. I'll pay you. Pay me for what? Yard work. My dad's been on my ass about raking leaves. I'll give you $50. $50. That was 2 weeks of food, maybe 3 if he stretched it. Okay, he replied. Cool, I'll pick you up at 3:30. Ethan pocketed his phone and kept walking. The next day, Emily pulled up in front of the school in a black Range Rover. Ethan climbed in and she drove without saying much, just some playlist humming softly through the speakers. Her house was massive, a 2-story colonial with white pillars, a wraparound porch, and a lawn the size of a football field. Ethan stared. You live here? He asked. Unfortunately. She parked in the driveway, grabbed 2 rakes from the garage, and handed him one. They worked in silence for the first hour. The pile of leaves grew. Ethan's hands blistered, but he didn't complain. Finally, Emily said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Why don't you ever fight back? Ethan stopped raking. What, Troy, Kyle? All those guys, they treat you like garbage, and you just take it. Why, Tom? Ethan leaned on the rake. Because fighting back makes it worse. Does it? Yeah, it does. Emily studied him. That's a sad way to live. It's the only way I know. She didn't push it. They kept raking. At 6 p.m., the front door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall, maybe 6'4", with broad shoulders, graying hair slicked back, and a leather vest over a black t-shirt. Tattoos covered both arms. His boots were scuffed and heavy. He looked like someone who'd seen things, done things. Emily, he said. His voice was deep, gravelly. Hey, Dad. He looked at Ethan. Who's this? Ethan. He's helping me with the yard. The man walked over, his eyes never leaving Ethan. He stuck out a hand. Silas Graves. Ethan shook it. Silas's grip was like a vice. You go to school with Emily? Silas asked. Yes, sir. You got a last name, Carter? Silas nodded slowly, like he was filing that information away. You do good work, Carter. I try. Good. Emily, pay the kid and make sure he eats something before he leaves. He walked back inside. Ethan let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Your dad's intense, he said. Emily smirked. You have no idea. She paid him in cash, 5/10 crisp, and new. Ethan pocketed them carefully. You hungry? Emily asked. I should get going. It wasn't a question. Come on. She led him inside. The house was just as massive on the inside, high ceilings, leather furniture, a kitchen bigger than Ethan's entire auto shop. Emily pulled leftovers from the fridge and heated them up. They ate at the kitchen island, steak, mashed potatoes, green beans. Ethan forced himself to eat slowly, even though he wanted to inhale it. So what does your dad do? Ethan asked. Emily hesitated. He's in business. What kind of business? The kind you don't ask questions about. Ethan got the message. He finished eating, thanked her, and headed for the door. Ethan, Emily called. He turned. If you ever need anything, she said, you can call me. Okay. He nodded. Okay. But he knew he wouldn't. That night, Ethan lay on his mattress, staring at the ceiling, the $50 tucked into his coat pocket. He thought about Emily's house, her father, the way Silas Graves had looked at him, not with pity, but with something else. Respect, maybe, or just acknowledgement. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt something other than invisible. It didn't last. The next morning, Principal Dawson called him back to the office. I tried the number you gave me, Dawson said. It's disconnected. Ethan's heart sank. I also called Mercy General, Dawson continued. They don't have a nurse by your aunt's name on staff. So I'm going to ask you one more time, Carter. Where are you living? Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. He had nothing. I'm calling Child Protective Services, Dawson said. I don't have a choice. Please don't. I have to. It's the law. I'll figure it out. Just give me a few days. I can't do that. Ethan stood. Then I'm leaving. Sit down, Carter. No. He walked out of the office, out of the building, and kept walking. He didn't go back to the auto shop, didn't go to work, just walked until his feet ached and his lungs burned and the sun started to set. His phone buzzed. Emily, where are you? People are saying you walked out of school. He didn't reply. Ethan, seriously, are you okay? Still nothing. I'm coming to find you. He turned off his phone. The snow was falling harder now. The temperature had dropped into the 20s. Ethan pulled his coat tighter and kept walking. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice whispered, "You're not going to make it through the night." He ignored it. Hours passed. The streets emptied. The snow piled up. Ethan's fingers went numb. His toes followed. He ended up at Riverside Park, sitting on a bench under a streetlight, watching the snow fall. That's where Emily found him. She pulled up in the Range Rover, jumped out and ran over. "What the hell are you doing?" she shouted. "Sitting. It's 15 degrees out here. You're going to freeze to death." "Maybe." Emily grabbed his arm and pulled. "Get in the car." "No." "Ethan." I said no. He yanked his arm away. "Just leave me alone." Emily stepped back, her face a mix of anger and hurt. "Fine, freeze. See if I care." She got back in her car, slammed the door, and drove off. Ethan sat there alone again. The cold crept deeper. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Buzzed again. Again. Finally, he turned it back on. 17 missed texts, all from Emily. The last one said, "I'm sorry, please just tell me where you're staying." Ethan stared at it for a long time. Then he typed, "Nowhere." 3 dots appeared. Then, "What do you mean nowhere?" "I mean I'm homeless." The dots stopped, started again, stopped. Then his phone rang. He answered. "Where are you right now?" Emily's voice was tight. "Riverside Park." "Stay there, I'm coming back." Emily, she hung up. 10 minutes later, the Range Rover pulled up again. This time Silas Graves was driving. Emily jumped out, ran over and pulled Ethan to his feet. "Come on." "Where? My house." "I can't." "Yes, you can." She looked at her father. "Dad, tell him." Silas leaned out the window. "Get in the car, kid." It wasn't a request. Ethan got in. They drove in silence. When they reached the house, Silas led Ethan inside up the stairs and into a guest room. "You'll stay here tonight," Sua said. "We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." "I don't need, kid." Silas's voice was firm but not unkind. "You're about 10 minutes from hypothermia, so shut up, take the bed, and we'll talk in the morning." He left. Emily lingered in the doorway. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly. "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "My dad's going to have questions." She closed the door. Ethan sat on the bed, an actual bed with actual sheets and pillows, and for the first time in months, he let himself cry. Ethan woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he opened his eyes and saw the ceiling clean, white, intact, and remembered where he was. He sat up slowly. His body ached. His throat was raw, but he was warm. Someone knocked on the door. "You decent," Emily's voice. "Yeah." She opened the door carrying a plate stacked with pancakes, eggs, and bacon. "My dad said you need to eat before you come downstairs." Ethan stared at the food. "Why?" "Because he wants to talk to you and he doesn't want you passing out mid-conversation." She set the plate on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed. "How you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "You almost froze to death." "So yeah, that tracks." Ethan picked up a piece of bacon. It was crispy, salty, perfect. He ate it slowly, then another, then started on the eggs. "Your dad doesn't have to do this," he said between bites. "He knows." "Then why is he?" Emily looked at him directly. "Because that's what he does. He helps people who can't help themselves." "I'm not a charity case." "He doesn't see it that way." She stood. "Finish eating. He's waiting." She left. Ethan finished the plate in under 5 minutes, then got dressed and went downstairs. Silas Graves sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a newspaper. He didn't look up when Ethan walked in. "Sit," Silas said. Ethan sat. Silas folded the newspaper and set it aside. "You going to tell me the truth, or are we going to dance around it?" "About what?" "About where you've been sleeping, how long you've been on your own, all of it." Ethan hesitated. Then he said, 6 months, since my mom died." Silas didn't flinch. "What about your father?" "Prison, aggravated assault. He's got another 3 years." "Other family?" "No." Silas took a sip of coffee. And you've been living where? An abandoned auto shop on 5th Street. The Hartley place. Ethan blinked. You know it. I know every building in this town, kid, especially the ones people forget about. Silas set his mug down. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here until we figure out a plan. You're going to go to school, you're going to keep your head down, and in exchange, you're going to help out around the house. Yard work errands, whatever Emily or I need. Sound fair? Ethan's throat tightened. I can't. You can and you will. This isn't a negotiation. Why are you doing this? Silas leaned back in his chair. Because I know what it's like to have nothing. And I know what it's like when someone throws you a lifeline. His eyes locked on Ethan's. Don't waste it. Ethan nodded, unable to speak. Good. Emily will take you to school. Don't make me regret this. Silas stood and walked out, leaving Ethan sitting there stunned. Emily appeared in the doorway. Come on, we're going to be late. The ride to school was quiet. Emily didn't push him to talk, and Ethan was grateful. When they pulled into the parking lot, she killed the engine and turned to him. People are going to ask questions, she said, about where you were yesterday, about why you're with me. What do I say? Whatever you want. But if Troy starts running his mouth, ignore him. I always do. Good. They walked into school together. Heads turned. Whispers started immediately. By second period, the rumors were flying. Ethan heard 3 different versions. He'd been arrested. He'd run away. He'd tried to kill himself. None of them were true, but that didn't matter. At lunch, Troy cornered him. So you're living with Emily now? Troy asked, his voice dripping with venom. That's cozy. Ethan kept walking. Troy stepped in front of him. I'm talking to you, Carter. Move. Or what you gonna fight me? Troy laughed. You don't have the balls. Troy, move. Make me. Ethan tried to step around him. Troy shoved him back. Hard. Ethan stumbled, dropped his books. The hallway went silent. Everyone stopped to watch. Troy grinned. What's wrong, ghost boy? You gonna cry? Ethan picked up his books, his hands shaking. Not from fear, from rage. He stood slowly, looked Troy dead in the eye and said, touch me again and see what happens. Troy's grin faltered, just for a second. Then he laughed. You're pathetic. He walked away. The crowd dispersed. Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Emily appeared beside him. You okay? Yeah. That took guts. It was stupid. Maybe, but it was about time. That night, Silas called Ethan into his office, a wood-paneled room with bookshelves, a massive desk, and photos on the walls. Most of them were of motorcycles. Some were of men in leather vests, arms crossed, staring down the camera. You know what I do? Silas asked. Emily said you're in business. That's one way to put it. Silas leaned against his desk. I'm the president of a motorcycle club, the Hells Angels. You heard of us. Ethan nodded. Everyone had heard of the Hells Angels. We're not what people think, Silas said. We're not criminals. We're a brotherhood. We look out for each other. We protect our own. And right now, kid, you're under my roof. That makes you one of mine. Ethan didn't know what to say. You understand what that means? Silas asked. Not really. It means if anyone messes with you, they mess with me. And trust me, they don't want that. Ethan swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know what you're walking into. People are going to notice you're living here. They're going to talk. Some of them are going to push back. And when that happens, I need to know you can handle it. I can. Good. Silas straightened. One more thing. If you're going to stay here, you need to earn your keep. I'm not running a halfway house. I know. Emily said I'd help with yard work. That's part of it, but I've got something else in mind. Silas opened a drawer and pulled out a set of keys. There's a garage behind the house. Used to be a mechanic shop before I bought the place. I want you to clean it out, organize it, get it running again. I don't know anything about mechanics. You'll learn. I'll teach you. Silas tossed him the keys. Start tomorrow after school. Ethan caught them. Why? Because every man needs a skill, and you strike me as someone who could use something to focus on. Ethan nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait till you see the mess you are walking into. The next day, Ethan opened the garage and immediately understood what Silas meant. The place was a disaster. Tools scattered everywhere, parts piled in corners, grease stains covering the floor. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years, but Ethan didn't care. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. He spent the entire afternoon sorting tools, sweeping floors, organizing parts. By the time the sun set, he'd barely made a dent, but it felt good, productive, like he was building something instead of just surviving. Emily brought him a sandwich and a water bottle. "You've been out here for 4 hours." "I know. You don't have to do all this in one day." "I want to." She sat on an overturned crate and watched him work. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why didn't you ask for help sooner?" "Like from anyone." Ethan stopped sweeping. "Because asking for help means admitting you can't do it on your own. And once you admit that people start making decisions for you, I didn't want that. Even if it meant freezing to death." "Yeah, even then." Emily shook her head. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." "Probably. But I get it." They sat in silence for a while. Then Emily said, "Troy's having another party this Friday." Ethan groaned. "Again?" "He throws one every month. It's his thing." "You going?" "I have to. He's been texting me nonstop. Says he wants to talk." "You don't owe him anything." "I know, but if I don't go, he'll just make it worse." "Then bring someone with you, seriously." Emily looked at him. "You offering for real this time?" Ethan hesitated. Then he said, "Yeah, if you want." "You sure Troy's parties are brutal?" "I've dealt with worse." Emily smiled. "Okay, but fair warning, you're going to hate every second of it." She wasn't wrong. Friday night came faster than Ethan wanted. Emily picked him up at 7, and they drove to Troy's house, a sprawling McMansion on the edge of town, with cars lining the driveway and music thumping through the walls. "Last chance to bail," Emily said. "I'm good." They walked in. The place was packed, drunk teenagers, red cups everywhere, someone throwing up in a potted plant. Troy stood in the center of it all, holding court like a king. He saw Emily immediately, his face lit up. Then he saw Ethan, and the light died. "What the hell is he doing here?" Troy asked. "He's with me," Emily said coolly. "I didn't invite him." "I don't care." Troy's jaw clenched. Can we talk alone?" "No. Please, just 5 minutes." Emily sighed. "Fine, stay here," she told Ethan. "I'll be right back." She followed Troy upstairs. Ethan stood there alone in a crowd, feeling every pair of eyes on him. Kyle Brennan walked over holding a beer. "You got a death wish, Carter." "Just here with Emily." "Yeah, I can see that. Question is why?" "Because she asked." Kyle laughed. "You really think she's into you, dude? She's using you to make Troy jealous. You're a pawn." "Maybe. Definitely." Kyle took a sip of his beer. "But hey, enjoy it while it lasts. Once she's done with you, you'll be back to being invisible." He walked away. Ethan stood there, doubt creeping in. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Emily didn't come back. Ethan pulled out his phone and texted her, "You okay?" No response. He waited another 5 minutes, then went upstairs. The second floor was quieter. Ethan walked down the hallway checking rooms. Most were empty or occupied by couples making out. Then he heard voices, Emily's and Troy's, coming from a room at the end of the hall. "I said no, Troy. Come on, babe, just hear me out. I'm not your babe anymore." Ethan pushed the door open. Troy had Emily backed against the wall, his hand on her arm. She was trying to pull away, but he wasn't letting go. "Let her go," Ethan said. Troy turned, his eyes blazing. "Get out, Carter." "Let her go." "Or what?" Ethan stepped forward. "Or I'll make you." Troy laughed. Then he let go of Emily and charged. The punch came fast, a wild haymaker aimed at Ethan's face. Ethan ducked, and Troy's fist slammed into the wall. Troy howled, clutching his hand. Ethan grabbed Emily's wrist. "We're leaving." They ran down the stairs, through the crowd, and out the door. Emily's hands were shaking. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked. "Yeah, I just thank you." "Don't thank me. Let's just get out of here." They got in the car and drove. Emily didn't say anything for the first 10 minutes. Then she pulled over on the side of the road and burst into tears. "I'm so stupid," she sobbed. "I keep going back to him, and he keeps hurting me. And I don't know why I can't just—" "Hey!" Ethan reached over and squeezed her hand. "It's not your fault." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not. Troy's a piece of shit. You didn't do anything wrong." Emily wiped her eyes. "Why are you so nice to me?" "Because you were nice to me first." She laughed through her tears. "That's a terrible reason." It's the only one I've got. They sat there for a while, just breathing. Then Emily started the car again and drove home. When they got back, Silas was waiting in the driveway, leaning against his motorcycle. What happened? He asked. Troy happened, Emily said. Silas's expression darkened. He hurt you. He tried. Ethan stopped him. Silas looked at Ethan. That true? Ethan nodded. Silas's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and made a call. It's me, he said. We need to have a conversation with Troy Mason tomorrow. Bring the boys. He hung up, looked at Emily. Go inside, both of you. Emily grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him toward the house. What's he going to do? Ethan asked. You don't want to know. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of motorcycles. He looked out the window and saw 50 bikes parked in the driveway. Men in leather vests stood around talking, smoking, laughing. Silas was in the center of them, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Ethan went downstairs. Emily was already in the kitchen drinking coffee. What's going on? He asked. Dad's handling it. Handling what? Troy. Emily. Don't ask, just trust me. An hour later, Silas came back. He didn't say what happened. He didn't have to. The look on his face said everything. That afternoon, Ethan got a text from an unknown number. Stay away from Emily or you're dead. He showed it to Silas. Silas read it, then handed the phone back. Ignore it. What if he's serious? He's not. He's scared. Silas clapped a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You did good last night, kid. Real good. Ethan didn't feel good. He felt like he'd just painted a target on his back. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't alone. And that made all the difference. The threat didn't go away. Monday morning, Ethan found his locker spray painted with the word dead in red letters. Tuesday, someone slashed the tires on Emily's Range Rover while it was parked at school. Wednesday, Kyle Brennan cornered him in the bathroom. Troy wants you to know something, Kyle said, blocking the door. Ethan dried his hands slowly. I'm listening. He's not done with you, not even close. Tell him I said hi. Kyle's face twisted. You think you're tough now because you got Emily's dad backing you? I think I'm tired of this conversation. Ethan tried to walk past. Kyle shoved him back against the sink. You don't get it, do you? Kyle hissed. Troy's family has money, real money. They own half this town. Silas Graves doesn't scare them. Then why are you here delivering messages like a trained dog? Kyle's fist came fast. Ethan blocked it barely and shoved him back. Kyle stumbled, caught himself, and charged again. The bathroom door slammed open. Enough, Mr. Carver, the janitor stood there with a mop in his hand. Both of you, principal's office, now. Kyle pointed at Ethan. He started it. I don't care who started it. Move. They walked to the office in silence. Principal Dawson made them sit on opposite sides of the waiting area while he called their parents. Ethan's stomach dropped. I don't have parents to call. Dawson looked at him over his glasses. You're living with Silas Graves, correct? Yes, sir. Then I'm calling him. 20 minutes later, Silas walked through the door, wearing his leather vest boots and an expression that could cut glass. Kyle's mother arrived at the same time, a thin woman in a designer pantsuit who looked at Silas like he was something she'd stepped in. Mrs. Brennan, Dawson said. Mr. Graves, thank you for coming. They sat. Dawson explained the situation. Kyle's mother interrupted 3 times, insisting her son was defending himself. Silas said nothing, just listened. When Dawson finished, he said, I'm suspending both boys for 3 days. Absolutely not, Mrs. Brennan snapped. Kyle has a football game this Friday. You can't. I can, and I am. Dawson turned to Silas. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Graves? Silas looked at Ethan. Did you throw the first punch? No, sir. Did you throw any punches? No, sir. I blocked one and pushed him back. Silas nodded. Then he looked at Dawson. My boy defended himself. If that's worth a suspension, fine. But don't pretend this is equal. Your school's been letting Troy Mason and his crew terrorize kids for years. Maybe it's time you dealt with the real problem. Mrs. Brennan's face turned red. How dare you? I'm not done. Silas's voice was calm but absolute. Your son just threatened mine in a bathroom. That's assault. I could press charges, but I won't. This time, consider it a courtesy. He stood. Come on, Ethan. Ethan followed him out. They got in Silas's truck and drove in silence for a few minutes. You okay? Silas asked. Yeah. You sure? Because you just got suspended. I've been through worse. Silas glanced at him. I know you have, but that doesn't mean you have to keep taking hits. What else am I supposed to do? Fight back. Ethan stared. You just told Dawson I didn't throw any punches. I know what I said, but there's a difference between defending yourself and letting people walk all over you. Silas pulled into a parking lot and killed the engine. Come on. Where are we going? You'll see. They walked into a gym, bare concrete floors, heavy bags hanging from chains, the smell of sweat and leather. A man in his 40s with a shaved head and tattoos covering his arms looked up from wrapping someone's hands. Silas, the man said, grinning. Been a while. Too long. This is Ethan. He needs to learn how to handle himself. The man looked Ethan up and down. He's scrawny. He's tougher than he looks. We'll see. The man stuck out a hand. Name's Ricky. You ever boxed before? No. Good. Means I don't have to unteach bad habits. Ricky tossed him a pair of gloves. Let's start with the basics. For the next 2 hours, Ricky put Ethan through hell. Footwork drills, jabs, crosses, combinations. Ethan's arms felt like lead by the end, but Ricky didn't let up. Again, Ricky barked. Jab, cross, hook. Don't think, just move. Ethan threw the combination. His form was sloppy, but he was getting faster. Better, Ricky said. You're learning. By the time they left, Ethan could barely lift his arms. Silas bought him a burger on the way home. Why are you doing this? Ethan asked. Doing what? All of it. The house, the garage. Now this. Silas took a bite of his burger, chewed, swallowed. Because you remind me of someone. Who? Me, 25 years ago. Ethan didn't know what to say to that. I was 16 when my old man kicked me out, Silas continued. Told me I was worthless, that I'd never amount to anything. I slept in alleys, under bridges, wherever I could find. Almost died more times than I can count. What changed? A man named Hank Sullivan. He was the president of the Hells Angels back then. Found me half dead in a parking lot, brought me in, gave me a purpose. Taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them. Silas looked at Ethan. Hank saved my life, and now I'm paying it forward. That's how this works. Ethan's throat tightened. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to, just don't waste it. That night, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Silas's words. For the first time in his life, he felt like he mattered, like he was worth saving. It terrified him. The next morning, Emily knocked on his door. You awake? Yeah. She came in holding her phone. Troy posted something. She handed him the phone. It was an Instagram story, a photo of Ethan's locker with the word dead spray painted on it, captioned, Ghost Boy's days are numbered. Ethan handed the phone back. He's an idiot. He's dangerous? I know. Emily sat on the edge of the bed. My dad's planning something. I heard him on the phone last night. Planning what? I don't know, but it involves Troy's family. Ethan's stomach dropped. Emily, your dad can't. He's not going to hurt anyone. He's smarter than that. She looked at him. But he's not going to let this go. Not after what Troy did to me. To you. I don't want this to get worse. It's already worse. Troy's not going to stop until someone makes him. She was right. Ethan knew she was right. The suspension ended and Ethan went back to school. The whispers followed him everywhere. People stared. Some laughed. A few looked at him with something like respect. Troy avoided him. So did Kyle, but the tension was still there, simmering under the surface. Friday afternoon, Ethan was working in the garage when Silas walked in. We need to talk, Silas said. Ethan set down the wrench he was holding. About what? Troy's father came to see me today. Ethan's pulse quickened. What did he want? He wanted me to back off. Said his son's just a kid. Said I'm overreacting. What did you say? I told him his son put his hands on my daughter. Threatened a kid under my protection. And if he doesn't handle it, I will. What does that mean? Silas leaned against the workbench. It means Troy's on thin ice. One more move and I'm done playing nice. Silas, I don't want you getting in trouble because of me. Too late for that, kid. You're part of this family now, and we protect our own. Ethan wanted to argue, but the look in Silas's eyes told him it wouldn't matter. That weekend, Emily convinced Ethan to come to a party not Troy's, but one thrown by a girl named Jess Harper. It was smaller, quieter, less chaotic. Ethan stood in the corner, nursing a soda, watching people dance and laugh and live lives that felt impossibly far from his own. You look miserable, Emily said, appearing beside him. I'm fine. Liar, he smiled a little. Okay, yeah, I'm miserable. Want to leave? Kind of. Then let's go. They walked outside. The night was cold, the stars bright. They sat on the curb, shoulders touching, breath forming clouds in the air. Can I ask you something? Emily said. Sure. Do you ever think about the future, like what you want your life to be? Ethan thought about it. I used to, when my mom was alive. But after she died, I don't know, it felt pointless. And now I'm just trying to survive, one day at a time. Emily nodded. I get that, but you deserve more than just surviving. So do you. She looked at him. What do you mean? You're smart. You're kind. You could do anything, but you're stuck in this town dealing with people like Troy pretending you're okay when you're not. Emily's eyes glistened. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? She looked away. My mom left because she couldn't handle my dad's life. The club, the danger. She told me I'd end up just like her if I stayed. And maybe she's right. Or maybe she's wrong. Maybe you're stronger than she ever was. Emily wiped her eyes. You're annoyingly optimistic for someone who's been through hell. I'm not optimistic. I'm just stubborn. She laughed, then she leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat there for a long time, not saying anything, just existing together. Monday morning, everything exploded. Ethan walked into school to find police cars in the parking lot. Students crowded around phones out filming. What's going on? Ethan asked someone. Troy got arrested. Ethan's blood ran cold. For what? Vandalism, assault, a bunch of stuff. Apparently someone sent the cops a whole file on him. Ethan didn't need to ask who. He found Emily in the hallway. Did your dad? I don't know, she said quickly, and I don't want to know. But they both knew. That afternoon, Silas was waiting when Ethan got home. Sit, Silas said. Ethan sat. Troy Mason's been charged with multiple counts of harassment, vandalism, and assault. He's looking at juvenile detention. Did you buttish? I didn't do anything illegal. I just made sure the right people had the right information. Ethan exhaled. His family's going to come after you. Let them try. Silas. Kid, listen to me. There are people in this world who think they're untouchable. People like Troy and his family. They've gotten away with things for years because no one's ever stood up to them. Well, I'm standing up, and I'm not backing down. Ethan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because for the first time in his life, someone was fighting for him, and it felt like everything. That night, Ethan stood in the garage staring at the coat hanging on a hook, the green canvas coat his mother had given him, the one he'd almost given away a dozen times just to stay warm. He pulled it on, zipped it up, and felt the weight of everything that had happened. 6 months ago, he was invisible, alone, barely surviving. Now he had a roof over his head, food in his stomach, people who cared. But he also had enemies, people who wanted to see him fail. And deep down, Ethan knew this wasn't over. Not even close. The call came 3 days later. Ethan was in the garage rebuilding a carburetor under Silas's instruction when Emily burst through the door, her face white as paper. Troy's out, she said. Ethan set down his wrench. What? His family posted bail. He's out, and he's pissed. Silas appeared behind her phone, pressed to his ear. He listened for a moment, then hung up. How pissed? Silas asked. He posted a video, Emily said, pulling out her phone. You need to see this. She hit play. Troy's face filled the screen, his jaw swollen, his eyes dark with rage. You think you won, Troy said into the camera. You think getting me arrested changes anything I know where you live, Carter. I know where Emily lives, and I'm coming for both of you. The video ended. Silas's expression didn't change, but his knuckles went white around his phone. When did he post this? Silas asked. 10 minutes ago. Silas dialed a number. It's me. Get everyone to the house. Now. He hung up and looked at Ethan. Stay inside. Don't leave for any reason. What are you going to do? What I should have done the first time. Within an hour, the driveway was packed with motorcycles. 50 men in leather vests, all wearing the Hells Angels insignia, stood in a semicircle around Silas. Ethan watched from the window as Silas addressed them. Troy Mason just threatened my family, Silas said, his voice carrying across the yard. I need to know, are we letting that stand? The response was immediate. A chorus of no and hell no echoed through the air. Good, Silas said, because we're paying him a visit, and we're making sure he understands exactly who he's messing with. The men mounted their bikes. The engines roared to life, a sound like thunder rolling across the earth. Then they were gone, leaving only dust and silence. Emily grabbed Ethan's arm. We should go with them. Are you insane? He threatened us. I want to see his face when 50 bikers show up at his door. Emily, I'm going. You can stay here if you want. She grabbed her keys and headed for the door. Ethan cursed under his breath and followed. They drove in silence, following the trail of motorcycles through town. By the time they reached Troy's house, the bikes were already parked in a line across the street, engines idling, headlights cutting through the dusk. Silas stood at the front door, flanked by two men who looked like they could break a person in half without breaking a sweat. He knocked once, hard. Troy's father answered. Richard Mason was a tall man in an expensive suit with silver hair and the kind of face that was used to getting its way. He looked at Silas, then at the 50 bikers behind him, and his confidence faltered. What is this? Richard demanded. We need to talk about your son, Silas said. I have nothing to say to you. That's fine, but you're going to listen. Silas pushed past him into the house. Richard tried to stop him, but one of Silas's men stepped forward and Richard backed down. Ethan and Emily stayed by the car watching. This is insane, Ethan muttered. This is necessary, Emily corrected. Inside, voices rose. Ethan couldn't make out the words, but he heard Silas's tone, calm, controlled, absolute. Then he heard Troy's voice, high and panicked. 5 minutes later, Silas walked out. Troy followed his face, his hands shaking. Silas pointed at Ethan. Apologize. Troy's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Now. Troy looked at his father. Richard gave a tiny nod. Troy turned to Ethan. I'm sorry. For what? Silas prompted. For threatening you? For everything. Silas looked at Emily. Now, her. Troy swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Emily, for hurting you, for being a piece of shit, for all of it. Emily said nothing, just stared at him with an expression that could freeze fire. Silas turned to Richard. Your son goes near either of them again, and we're done talking. Understood? Richard's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Silas walked back to his bike, mounted it, and the entire convoy roared to life. They left as one, a rolling wave of steel and leather disappearing into the night. Emily let out a breath she'd been holding. Holy shit! Ethan's hands were shaking. Yeah. They drove home in silence. When they got back, Silas was already there, leaning against the kitchen counter with a beer. That was reckless, Emily said. That was necessary, Silas replied, echoing her earlier words. What if they call the cops? They won't. Richard Mason knows better. Silas took a sip of his beer. But this isn't over. Troy's going to stew on this. And when he does, he's going to do something stupid. Like what? Ethan asked. I don't know, but we'll be ready. Ethan wanted to believe that, but the knot in his stomach told him otherwise. 2 weeks passed. Troy stayed away. The threats stopped. Life almost felt normal. Ethan fell into a routine school boxing with Ricky working in the garage. He was getting stronger, faster, more confident. The invisible boy who used to disappear into the background was starting to stand up straight, meet people's eyes, take up space. Emily noticed. You're different, she said one afternoon while they were studying in the living room. Different how? I don't know, you just seem more here. Ethan thought about it. I think I am, she smiled. Good, it looks good on you. That night, Silas called Ethan into his office. Sit, Silas said. Ethan sat. Silas opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. He slid it across the desk. What's this? Ethan asked. Legal papers. Guardianship documents. I talked to a lawyer. If you're willing, I want to make this official. Ethan stared at the folder to Marta. You want to be my legal guardian? Yeah. Why? Because you're already family, kid. This just makes it legal. Ethan's throat tightened. I don't know what to say. Say yes or say no. Either way, you've got a home here. But if you say yes, it means you've got protection, rights, a future. Ethan opened the folder, scanned the papers. His hand shook. What if I screw it up? He asked quietly. Then you screw it up. We all do, but you don't have to do it alone anymore. Ethan looked up. Silas's expression was steady, certain. Okay, Ethan said. Yes. Silas smiled a rare, genuine smile. Good. We'll file the papers next week. That Friday, Ethan went to another party with Emily. This time, he didn't stand in the corner. He talked to people, laughed, almost felt like he belonged. Around midnight, Emily pulled him outside. "I need to tell you something," she said. "What?" "I'm leaving." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What do you mean leaving?" "I got accepted to a college in California, full scholarship. I'm leaving in January." That's great. "Is it?" "Yeah, you deserve it." Emily's eyes searched his. "I don't want to leave you." "You're not. You're just going to school." "Ethan, Emily, you have spent your whole life taking care of everyone else, your dad, me. It's time you did something for yourself." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm going to miss you." "I'm going to miss you too." She hugged him, and Ethan held on tight, memorizing the moment. When they pulled apart, Emily wiped her eyes. "Promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll keep going, that you won't disappear again." "I promise." December came fast. The weather turned brutal, temperatures dropping below zero, snow piling up in drifts taller than a person. One night, Ethan was walking home from Marty's when he saw a car pulled over on the side of the road, hazard lights blinking. He almost kept walking. Almost. But then he saw who was inside. Emily. He ran over and knocked on the window. She rolled it down, her face streaked with tears. "What happened?" Ethan asked. "Troy," she said, her voice shaking. "He followed me. Ran me off the road." Ethan's vision went red. "Where is he?" I don't know. He just drove off." "Are you hurt?" "No, just scared." Ethan pulled out his phone and called Silas. "We've got a problem." 20 minutes later, Silas and 10 of his men showed up. They got Emily's car back on the road, made sure she was safe, and sent her home with an escort. Then Silas turned to Ethan. "Get in." They drove through town searching. It didn't take long. Troy's car was parked outside a bar on the edge of town. Silas pulled up next to it and killed the engine. "Stay here," Silas said. "No." Silas looked at him. "Ethan." He threatened her again. "I'm not sitting this out." Silas studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Fine, but you stay behind me." They walked into the bar. Troy was sitting at a table with Kyle and Derek, drunk and laughing. When he saw Silas, the laughter died. "We need to talk," Silas said. "I've got nothing to say to you." Silas grabbed him by the collar and hauled him to his feet. "You ran my daughter off the road." "Prove it." Silas slammed him against the wall. "I don't need to prove it. I know you did it, and now you're going to pay." Troy's friends stood, but Silas's men stepped forward and they sat back down. "Here's what's going to happen," Silas said, his voice deadly calm. "You're going to leave town tonight, and you're not coming back. Because if I see your face again, I'm not going to hold back. You can't make me leave. Watch me." Silas released him. Troy stumbled, caught himself, and glared at Ethan. "This is your fault." Troy spat. Ethan stepped forward. "No, this is yours. You had everything. Money, popularity, a future. And you threw it away because you couldn't stand the idea of someone saying no to you." Troy lunged. Ethan sidestepped, and Troy crashed into a table. "Get out," Silas said. "Now." Troy left his friends trailing behind him. Silas turned to Ethan. "You okay?" "Yeah." "Good, let's go home." 3 days later, Emily came to Ethan's room with a box. "What's this?" he asked. "Your coat," she said. "The one you gave me that night." Ethan looked inside. The green canvas coat cleaned and folded. "You kept it," he said. "Of course I did. It saved my life." Ethan shook his head. "I just gave you a coat." "No, you gave me everything you had. You could have frozen to death, but you didn't think twice." She handed him the box. "Keep it. It's a reminder of who you are." Ethan took the coat, held it, felt the weight of it. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emily smiled. "Thank you for being you." January came. Emily left for California. Silas finalized the guardianship papers. Ethan started his second semester at Millbrook High as a different person, no longer invisible, no longer alone. One afternoon, he was working in the garage when a car pulled up. A man stepped out, late 30s beard, wearing a Hells Angels vest. "You Ethan Carter?" the man asked. "Yeah." "Name's Danny. Silas sent me. Said you might be interested in learning to ride." Ethan looked at the motorcycle parked behind the car, a black Harley gleaming in the sunlight. "You serious?" Ethan asked. "Dead serious." "You in?" Ethan thought about the boy he used to be, the one who slept in an abandoned building. the one who believed he'd never be anything more than a ghost. And then he thought about the person he was becoming. "Yeah," Ethan said, "I'm in." That night, Silas found him sitting on the porch staring at the stars. "You good?" Silas asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About how different everything is now." Silas sat beside him. "You earned it, kid, every bit of it." Ethan looked at him. "I wouldn't be here without you." "Maybe, but I wouldn't be the man I am without people like you reminding me why I do this." They sat in silence for a while. Then Silas said, "You know what the Hells Angels motto is?" "No." "When we do right, nobody remembers. When we do wrong, nobody forgets." Silas looked at him. "You did right, Ethan, and people are going to remember." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of it settle in his chest. He wasn't invisible anymore. He wasn't alone. He was Ethan Carter, survivor fighter, and now finally someone who belonged, and nothing in the world could take that away from him.